Some wars are invisible. They don't leave bruises on your skin or blood on the floor. They leave a quiet ache behind your eyes, a pressure in your chest that no scan can detect, a feeling of drowning when you're in a room full of people. These are the battles you fight when no one is watching, when the world thinks you're fine, but your mind knows otherwise. Jake looked like he had it all, living in a high-rise apartment in Manhattan, working as a freelance designer, networking with trendy brands, and sipping overpriced lattes in minimalist cafes. But each night, when the city lights faded and the crowd disappeared, Jake's real world began. He wasn't fighting competitors. He was fighting his own thoughts, the ones that crept in just as he laid his head down. You're not enough. You're faking it. Everyone will leave eventually. He didn't tell anyone. He smiled through meetings, posted polished photos, made sarcastic jokes to deflect concern. But the war was real, and it was winning. The terrifying part. You've likely felt it too. That quiet, unexplainable tension. The way your mind turns, a single thought into a wildfire. You forget one thing, and suddenly you're worthless. You get criticized once, and suddenly you're a failure. No matter how calm your surroundings are, your mind spins with regret, anxiety, or shame. You're safe, but you feel hunted. You're alone, but your thoughts are screaming. There are two types of battles in life, the one with the world, and the one within. And the one inside is always the most dangerous, because while the world can hurt you once, your thoughts can hurt you endlessly. They can echo, mutate, and multiply. And unless you take back control, they begin to shape your identity. Not because they're true, but because you've heard them so many times that they start to sound real. Jake's story is not rare, it's epidemic. It's in the student sitting quietly at the back of the lecture hall. It's in the father providing for his family while secretly unraveling inside. It's in the woman who looks confident on Instagram but can't sleep because her mind keeps reminding her of every mistake she's ever made. This is the storm, and it's silent. But what if I told you that thousands of years ago, there were people who lived through worse and found peace, not through escape, but through a code, a mindset, a philosophy. The ancient Stoics weren't influencers or life coaches. They were warriors, slaves, emperors, outcasts. And in their chaos, they discovered something most modern people never will. The greatest power you'll ever have is how you respond to your own mind. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who led through plagues and betrayals, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He didn't write that for applause. He wrote it alone, in his journal, to survive. This is not a self-help hack. This is mental warfare. And if you're tired of being your own enemy, it's time to arm yourself. Because if you can't control your thoughts will control your life. Every dream, every relationship, every decision, hijacked by invisible scripts that you never chose. But that ends now. In this video, we're diving into 7 brutal Stoic laws. Not fluff, not sugar-coated wisdom. Real ancient tools to break your negative thinking, rewire your mental patterns, and rebuild the way you respond to the storms inside. This is for the fighter in you. The part of you that's tired of just surviving and ready to take back your mind. But be warned, what you'll hear might challenge how you see yourself, how you've lived, and how you've been taught to think. And that's exactly the point. If this is the kind of battle you're ready for, hit that subscribe button now. Support this channel so we can keep creating powerful content to help you conquer your mind, one truth at a time. Before we jump into the first law, I want to hear from you. Let's get real in the comments. When negative thoughts hit, what's your first instinct? A. I try to distract myself and avoid it. B. I spiral and believe it must be true. Comment your answer below with A or B. Let's see how many of us are fighting the same war now. Let's begin. Mia sat curled up on her couch in Chicago, wrapped in a blanket that never quite seemed to warm her. Her phone was face down on the coffee table, her inbox still open on the screen, frozen on one line that wouldn't let go. "You don't sound confident about your own idea." A client said it casually, likely forgetting the moment the second it passed. But for Mia, it detonated something deeper. Her mind spun faster than she could catch up. "I'm not good enough. I always mess this up. They don't respect me. They're just being polite." Soon it wasn't just about the call. It became about her worth, her career, her entire future. She wasn't thinking anymore. She was drowning. And here's the part no one tells you. Those thoughts, they weren't real. They weren't facts. They weren't prophecies. They were static, temporary noise. But in that moment, they felt like truth. This is the trap almost everyone falls into. We believe our thoughts are us. We attach our identity to whatever floats through our minds. If we think something fearful, we become afraid. If we think something self-critical, we become ashamed. The thought doesn't pass through us, it takes over. But what if you could detach from that noise? What if you realized you are not your thoughts? That sentence sounds simple, maybe even cliché, but it's one of the most liberating truths you'll ever learn. Because your thoughts can lie. They can exaggerate. They can twist your memories and distort your future. And the only reason they have power is because you let them build a home in your head. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They knew the mind could be both a sanctuary and a prison. Epictetus, born a slave and later a teacher, once said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them." He didn't mean ignore your emotions. He meant question them, challenge them, investigate them like a detective, not a victim. Most people hear a thought and accept it as law. "I failed this task, so I must be a failure." They didn't text back, so I must be unlovable. "I felt anxious in that meeting, so I must not belong here." But none of those are facts. They're assumptions made in fear, not in truth. What the Stoics taught was the ability to pause, to observe, to say, "I'm having a thought that I'm not enough," rather than, "I am not enough." That subtle shift creates space, and in that space, you get freedom. You get to decide whether that thought deserves your energy or not. Mia started practicing something called a thought audit 3 times a day. She'd write down the most intense thoughts she had. Then she'd ask herself, is this 100% true? What's the evidence for and against this? If a friend had this thought, what would I tell them? Will this matter in 5 years? Often, she discovered that what felt so real had no actual ground to stand on. It just felt heavy. It just arrived loud, but it wasn't real. Think of your mind like a radio station. You don't control which songs play next, but you do control the volume and whether you keep listening. A sad song comes on, maybe even one you hate. That doesn't mean you dance to it. You can change the channel. You can turn it down. You can step away. That's what it means to not be your thoughts. To recognize that thoughts are visitors. Some come in uninvited. Some are echoes from childhood. Some are reactions to fear. But none of them get to define who you are unless you give them the microphone. The next time a thought hits you like a slap, pause, breathe. Say this to yourself: I'm the thinker, not the thought. I'm the observer, not the reaction. I get to decide how this story ends. And if you practice that every day, if you learn to see thoughts like clouds instead of anchors, you'll discover something quietly powerful. The storm in your mind doesn't have to be your identity. It can just be weather. You're not broken because your thoughts get dark. You're not weak because your mind spirals. You're human, but you're also capable of leading your thoughts instead of following them. That's where your strength lives. Just like Mia, you can turn the noise down. You can take your mind back. And it starts by remembering this one truth. You are not your thoughts. You never were. The air in Seattle was cold and wet. the kind that soaks into your bones before you even notice. Derek stood at the edge of Kerry Park, staring out over the skyline, but he wasn't seeing the city. He was lost in a loop of what could have been, what should have been, and what never will be again. It had been 15 months since his marriage ended, but some nights it still felt like yesterday. He could replay the exact moment it all cracked. The words, the silence, the door closing behind her. He remembered the smell in the room, the look in her eyes, the sound of his own breath when she walked out, and no matter how many times he revisited that moment, it never changed, but he kept going back, because a part of him thought, maybe this time, if I think hard enough, I'll rewrite it. Maybe this time I'll find something I missed. Maybe I'll figure out how to make it go away. That's the illusion of control, and it's the root of so much suffering. Stoicism doesn't promise you a painless life. It promises you a powerful one, and that power begins when you stop trying to argue with reality, when you stop trying to undo what has already happened. Pain is part of life, but suffering is often the result of fighting what's already true. Epictetus taught that the path to peace is in aligning with reality, not resisting it. He said, do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, want them to happen the way they do, and your life will go well. That doesn't mean you celebrate tragedy or pretend everything's fine. It means you stop wasting energy on the impossible task of rewriting the past. Derek's pain wasn't just from the divorce. It was from his refusal to accept it. He kept thinking it shouldn't have ended. She should have stayed. He should have done something different. But that mental tug-of-war with fate only kept him stuck. It didn't fix anything. It just rewound the tape again and again until his identity became grief. But what if, instead of asking, why did this happen to me, he asked, what can I do now that it has? What if, instead of mourning the story he lost, he began writing the next chapter? That's what the Stoics mean when they talk about amor fati, the love of fate. It doesn't mean you love everything that happens to you in the moment. It means you embrace it as yours. You stop pushing it away. You stop labeling it as wrong. You accept that it's a part of your life's fabric now, and you choose to shape something meaningful with it, because reality isn't the enemy. Resistance is when Derek started asking different questions. His entire energy changed. He began replacing this shouldn't have happened with, but it did. So now what? And that simple shift cracked open a door he didn't know was there. It didn't erase his pain, but it gave him back his power. He started small, going for runs at sunrise, rebuilding his friendships, taking a photography class he always told himself he didn't have time for. He stopped trying to resurrect something dead, and instead started planting something new. That's what it means to stop fighting what already happened. It's not passive acceptance. It's the most active kind of bravery there is. It's deciding to live fully in a life you didn't plan for. And that kind of living takes more strength than regret ever will. The past cannot be negotiated. You can't make it fair. You can't make it prettier, but you can make your future purposeful. Acceptance is not weakness. It is the ultimate defiance against despair. The Stoics understood something deeply. The moment you stop demanding that reality change, you start unlocking the capacity to change yourself. If you're trapped in regret, stuck in what-ifs, tormented by what should have been, ask yourself this: how many more days are you willing to lose to a moment that already ended? How long will you keep bleeding for a wound that's already scarred over? Derek stood in that park long enough for the clouds to shift. He didn't feel healed. He didn't feel wise. But for the first time in months, he felt ready to stop reaching backward and start walking forward. And that's where peace begins, not with answers, but with surrender. The rain still falls in Seattle, but Derek learned to stop cursing the sky. He just wears a better jacket now. The email arrived at 4:12 p.m. sharp. Just as the Los Angeles sunlight hit the side of Hannah's apartment in that golden cinematic way that made the whole city look like a movie set. But what was inside the email shattered the illusion instantly. It was short, clipped, and cold. Her manager had responded to the pitch she'd spent 2 weeks perfecting with a single sentence. "Let's discuss this later. It's not quite what I expected." That was it. No feedback, no tone, just enough space for her mind to invent all the worst-case scenarios. Her stomach dropped, her hands tingled, her mind lit up like a house on fire. "She doesn't believe in me. I blew it. They're going to replace me. I'm not smart enough for this job." The spiral didn't ask for permission. It just took over. That's the thing about emotions. They don't knock, they don't wait. They barge in with intensity and demand your full attention. But what most people don't realize what Hannah was about to learn is that the first emotion is rarely the truth. It's a reflex, not reality. She sat there frozen for nearly 30 minutes, heart pounding, staring at that one sentence, unable to move. Her body was reacting as if she'd been physically attacked. But no one was in the room. No real danger existed. The threat wasn't external, it was internal. Her mind was playing a dangerous game, and she didn't know how to stop it. The Stoics warned about this long ago. They understood that emotional reactions are like smoke. They rise quickly, cloud everything, and choke logic out of the room. Marcus Aurelius, who had every reason to crumble under the weight of his empire, once wrote, "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are." That wisdom saved him. It can save you too. Because here's the truth. The emotion you feel in the first 5 minutes is often a liar. It shouts louder than your calm thoughts. It paints everything in extremes. It wants you to act now, yell now, quit now. And if you obey it without question, you will almost always regret it. Hannah didn't know it yet, but if she had waited, even an hour, the storm would have passed. At 5:37 p.m., her phone buzzed again. A follow-up from her manager. "Apologies for the abrupt note earlier. I was running between meetings. I actually think the concept has real potential. Let's talk tomorrow." Just like that, the fire went out. Nothing had ever been wrong. But her emotion had convinced her she was on the brink of failure. And that is what Stoicism protects you from. Not the emotion itself, but the destruction. That comes from believing the first wave is everything. Imagine if Hannah had responded in that moment. If she'd let her fear write an angry email or post something she couldn't take back. That's what happens when you treat your first emotion like a command instead of a signal. There's power in pause. There's wisdom in waiting. One of the most transformative practices the Stoics lived by was reflection. Not just thinking, but creating distance between feeling and action. When emotion rises, don't suppress it. Observe it. Name it. I'm feeling rejected. I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling doubt. Once you name it, it stops controlling you. You've turned the light on in a dark room. Then ask yourself, is this permanent? Is this emotion giving me truth or just noise? What would this situation look like from 5 years in the future? Perspective is the enemy of panic. Zooming out shrinks the monster in your mind. Hannah began keeping a notebook beside her desk. Every time she felt herself spiraling, she'd write what she felt and wait 15 minutes. Then she'd write what she felt again. Most of the time, the second version was gentler, clearer, and more rational. That gap, that's where growth lives. No one is asking you to become emotionless. That's not Stoicism. Stoicism is about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's about learning the language of your own mind so well that you no longer believe the lies it screams when things get hard. You are allowed to feel deeply, but you are also allowed to protect yourself from false urgency. So, next time a wave hits, pause, feel it, but don't feed it. Observe it, but don't obey it. Give it time, and it will pass, just like it always has. And when the calm returns, you'll thank yourself. Not because you avoided the emotion, but because you didn't let it drive. The car, that's strength, that's self-leadership, that's stoic power. Tanya stared at the screen of her phone in her small apartment in Austin. Her latest video had barely crossed a few hundred views. It was a piece she'd poured her soul into. It wasn't just content to hurt, it was expression, effort, vulnerability. And yet, the numbers said, it didn't matter. Her chest felt hollow. Her brain whispered the usual lines. You're irrelevant. No one cares. You peaked years ago. The thought didn't knock politely. It barged in and made itself at home. She wasn't grieving the video. She was grieving the story she was telling herself because of it. That's what people don't realize. The events in your life don't break you. It's the story you wrap around them that does. A video flops, and your mind doesn't say, maybe the algorithm was off today. It says, I'm worthless. You make a mistake at work, and your mind doesn't say, this is a lesson. It says, I'm a failure. The brain isn't always interested in truth. It's interested in patterns. And if you've believed the worst about yourself before, your mind will reach for those same conclusions again. But what if those stories weren't true? What if you could become the author instead of the reader? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you keep repeating a painful narrative, your identity begins to match it. That's not fate, that's inertia, and you can stop it. Tanya started practicing something that changed her perspective. She began separating the facts from the fiction. One notebook, 2 columns. On the left, what actually happened. On the right, what her mind told her it meant. One by one, she started noticing how wide the gap was. That simple process stripped her thoughts of their assumed authority. She realized most of her suffering was based on interpretations she never questioned. It wasn't magic, it was choice. Over and over, edit the story, reclaim the truth. Take back authorship. But our minds don't live in isolation. They're shaped by the environments we build around them. And here's where most people sabotage themselves without even realizing it. Because even if you question your thoughts and rewrite your story, if you live inside chaos, your mind will mirror it. Everything you expose yourself to becomes part of your inner dialogue. The people you surround yourself with, the conversations you entertain, the content you consume, it's all programming your subconscious. If you hang out with people who gossip, complain, and belittle others, your brain will mimic that energy. If you spend hours scrolling social media that triggers comparison, insecurity, or rage, you're feeding yourself poison. And if your space is constantly cluttered, loud, and disorganized, it signals your brain that your life is out of control. Seneca warned, associate with people who are likely to improve you, not just morally, but mentally. He understood that your outer world becomes your inner script. So Tanya did something radical. She cleaned her apartment top to bottom. She unfollowed every account that made her feel small. She began taking daily walks in silence without her phone. And she started curating her digital and physical world like it was sacred. Because it was. The change wasn't instant, but it was real. Her thoughts got quieter. Her confidence grew not from ego, but from the absence of constant negativity. But even the most mindful environment can't help if your body is shutting down. And that's what was happening to Noah in Denver. He was snapping at his coworkers, overthinking every decision, and waking up every morning, already tired. He thought he was falling apart. But the truth was simpler. He wasn't defective. He was just drained. There's a kind of exhaustion that no nap can fix. A depletion that comes from weeks of overstimulation, too much caffeine, not enough sleep, zero movement, and a nervous system that's been in fight or flight for months. And when your body is that overwhelmed, your mind becomes a hostile place. Every thought feels heavier. Every problem feels catastrophic. Every emotion is amplified. Noah didn't need another productivity hack. He needed recovery. He needed stillness. So he gave himself permission to stop, not quit. Just pause. He slept early, took walks without headphones, ate real food, spent 1 hour a day completely offline, and slowly, his mind returned to him, not because he fixed it, but because he stopped feeding the chaos. Stoicism isn't about being stoic in the modern sense of the word. It's not about suppressing everything and marching forward no matter what. It's about creating a mind that can see clearly, choose wisely, and stand still when the world shakes. And to do that, you need 3 things. First, authority over your thoughts. Second, control over your environment. And third, respect for your energy. Those are not luxuries, they are disciplines. They are your tools for peace in a noisy world. Use them, guard them, because the world won't hand you clarity. You have to build it. One thought, one choice, one boundary at a time. The ocean breeze rolled through Layla's apartment in San Diego, bringing with it the scent of salt, sun, and possibility. But she couldn't feel any of it. Her body was there, sitting on the balcony, legs curled beneath her, but her mind was somewhere else entirely, caught in a web of fear, shame, and questions, with no answers. What if I never figure it out? What if I'm always behind? What if I lose everything I worked for? It wasn't always like this. Layla used to be the kind of person who could find joy in the small things, a well-made cup of coffee, a good song at the right time, the way golden light hit the floor in the late afternoon. But lately, none of it registered. Her mind had narrowed into a tunnel, one where only problems existed, where beauty was blurred out by stress. The world hadn't changed. She had, or more precisely, her focus had dot, and then something unexpected happened. She found an old notebook she hadn't touched in years. Inside, a list of things she had once written down as blessings. Dinner with her best friend, the first freelance check she ever got, a stranger who held the door when she was having a rough morning. Simple things, human things, real things, and something about seeing that list cracked her open. It reminded her of something that Stoics understood with profound clarity, that gratitude is not just polite, it is not decorative, it is essential. It is armor for the mind. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Gratitude isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing to see what's still right, even when so much feels wrong, because what you focus on, you feel. And what you feel shapes your thoughts, your choices, your identity. Layla started small. 3 things, every night. That was the rule. Not big things, not perfect things, just real ones. A funny moment with a coworker, the softness of her favorite sweater, the fact that she had clean water, a working phone, and the freedom to make a new decision tomorrow. It didn't fix everything, but it did. Something more important. It gave her a foothold, a moment of stability in the chaos. And that's the point. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it holds your hand through it. What she learned is that negativity feeds on forgetfulness. It thrives when you stop noticing what's already yours, when your mind is full of what's missing. You forget the miracles you live in daily, like breath, like memory, like choice. Gratitude is the slow rewiring of a brain that's forgotten how to see clearly, and the Stoics knew this. That's why Marcus Aurelius, even while facing betrayals and wars, wrote daily reminders to himself of what was still good. He didn't wait to feel grateful. He practiced it like discipline, because that's what it is. A practice, not a mood. Layla began a new ritual. Every Sunday, she took a walk with her phone on airplane mode. No notifications, no music, just her and the world. Along the way, she took 5 photos, not of anything fancy. A crack in the sidewalk shaped like a heart, a dog sleeping in the sun, the way her shadow stretched out behind her. Those photos became her weekly proof that beauty still existed, that joy could still be found if she was willing to look. The world didn't stop being hard, but she stopped being helpless inside of it. That's what gratitude gives you. Perspective, grounding, a way back to yourself. When your mind tries to convince you that everything is falling apart, you don't need everything to go right to feel okay. You just need to stop letting your brain define reality based only on what's missing. The mind, left unchecked, becomes a thief. It robs you of the now by dragging you into the ache of what you lack. But gratitude is your resistance. It is the defiant act of saying, yes, life is hard, but I am still here. And that means something. So write it down, take the walk, name what didn't go wrong, collect evidence that the storm didn't take everything. And in doing so, you'll start to remember who you were before fear hijacked your focus. Layla still has hard days, but now they don't swallow her, because each morning begins with 3 anchors, 3 small truths, 3 reasons to stand up and try again. You can do the same. Gratitude is not weakness. It's the strongest armor you can wear in a world designed to make you forget how lucky you already are. It doesn't fix the storm, but it gives you shelter inside of it. And sometimes, that's all you need. Just enough hope to keep going. Just enough clarity to see a way forward. Just enough strength to begin again. Jake in New York looked strong on the outside, confident, functional, a guy who had everything together. But inside, he was barely hanging on. At night, he fought thoughts that told him he was a fraud, that he was falling behind, that no matter how hard he tried, it would never be enough. Then there was Mia in Chicago, who believed every dark idea that floated through her mind. Her thoughts told her she was failing, and she believed them, not realizing she could question them, challenge them, even release them. Derek in Seattle couldn't stop replaying the past. His marriage, his mistakes, the moment everything fell apart. He tried to rewrite it in his mind over and over again, as if enough regret could undo what had already happened. Hannah in Los Angeles almost let a single email ruin her confidence. Her emotions flared, her assumptions ran wild, but none of them were rooted in truth. She just didn't know how to wait long enough for the storm to pass. Tanya in Austin poured her soul into her work and let a disappointing result define her worth. She didn't just experience failure, she internalized it. She let her environment reflect her fears. Noah in Denver, overwhelmed and drained, thought he was broken, but what he needed wasn't fixing it, was rest, stillness, simplicity. And finally, Layla in San Diego rediscovered clarity, not through achievement, but through gratitude, through noticing the moments that didn't hurt, the things that didn't go wrong, the beauty that never left. Each of them fought a different kind of battle, but they were all the same at the core, a war within the mind. A war we all know too well. The thoughts that don't stop, the memories that haunt, the fears that freeze, the stories we tell ourselves when no one is listening. And in these quiet, invisible battles, they each found their way forward through one timeless source, Stoic wisdom. This wasn't about ancient quotes for inspiration. It was about applying those truths to real life, to pain, to overthinking, to the chaos we all carry quietly. They learned that they are not their thoughts, that a moment of pain doesn't have to become a life of suffering, that emotions lie, and the truth takes time, that you can stop trying to rewrite the past and begin writing your future, that your environment feeds your inner world and it matters more than you think, that sometimes you're not falling apart, you're just tired, and that gratitude is not a soft practice, but a powerful one that anchors you when the world shakes. These 7 brutal laws weren't just ideas, they were lifelines. And the deeper lesson woven through all of them is this: you don't need to control everything. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to own your response. That's the one thing no one can ever take from you. The one power that remains, even when everything else falls apart. So what's the takeaway? Life is never going to stop being hard, but your mind doesn't have to be a battlefield. You can learn to lead it. You can practice seeing differently, thinking differently, reacting less, observing more. You can build a mind that doesn't collapse under pressure, but rises above it with calm, clarity, and courage. You don't need to be perfect to be peaceful. You just need to practice every day. The way Jake started journaling instead of spiraling, the way Mia began separating herself from her thoughts, the way Derek let go of what he couldn't change, the way Hannah gave her emotions time, the way Tanya cleaned her mental and physical space, the way Noah honored his energy, and the way Layla chose to see beauty even when her world felt dark. These aren't extraordinary people. They're you. They're me. And their transformation didn't happen overnight. It happened in moments, in choices, in reminders, in truths repeated until they finally stuck. And if this journey helped you even a little, hit that subscribe button. Not for the algorithm, for the mission. For the reminder that you are not alone in your struggle and that you have more control than you've been led to believe. Support this channel so we can keep creating content that doesn't just entertain, transforms. Your mind is your strongest weapon. Train it daily, strengthen it deeply, and protect it fiercely. We're building a stoic mind together.